Good evening, everyone. Time for episode 38 of The Last Admiral. It's the 24th of March, 2022. And I just wanted to mention, obviously, especially from here on in, the martial arts and Chinese martial arts, Vietnamese martial arts in particular, as well as Japanese martial arts. The elements of all of them appear in this book, in the story, in the battle scenes. And I owe a great deal to my great teacher, Sifu John Lupos, for teaching me the Chinese martial arts, my Vovinam master, Dang Nguyen, for teaching me Vovinam, and my Aikido sensei, the late Paul Sylvain of Northampton, Massachusetts. They all gave me great experiences in my life in martial arts. So without ado, we'll start up with the chapter entitled Kitchen Duty. Dishes, Derek said cheerfully. My uncle always said that there would be dishes. Ren Vaughan grumbled incoherently, hard at work as he was, toweling off the cadets' dining plates and pottery bowls. The academy kitchen and dish room was sizable, adjoining directly to the dining courtyard that was nothing more than a covered outdoor picnic area open at 3 walls to the wind. The bordering kitchen was open on 2 walls in order to vent the steam and smoke of the cook fires. The dish room, where Derek and Ren Vaughan were currently working, was the only building covered and protected on all 4 walls, as the brisk winds blowing in off the ocean could ruin the dishes and other fragile cookware. Vlad strolled in through the open doorway that linked the washroom to the kitchen. A large oval serving tray rested upon his upraised left arm, filled to the tipping point with bowls, cups, and silverware. Well, he declared, that's the last of it. Thanks, Derek replied sarcastically. I was running low. Ren Vaughan continued working quietly, in a withdrawn, pensive way. Cheer up, Vlad said encouragingly, while grabbing the broom to sweep out the dining hall. We're getting much faster. It's barely 8 o'clock. Ren Vaughan continued to dry and stack, while returning a cold, inwardly amused stare. My uncle also said that dirty dishes are a blessing too, Derek replied, because it means that we have enough to eat. You're not helping, Ren Vaughan said. Vlad had already devised the most efficient means of sweeping the area clean of scraps of food and other blown-in debris in the shortest amount of time possible. In a climate where physical and mental training reached its very limits, it was already late. Most of the masters were already retired to sleep or meditation, so when Vlad looked up in order to locate the dustpan, he was surprised to find the abbot standing behind him, with his arms crossed behind his back and a curious expression upon his face. Wong Long was an impressive, upright figure of a man, despite the fact that he was well past middle age. His well-formed, shaved head housed large brown eyes artfully framed by bushy eyebrows, an oval, somewhat muscular face, and a friendly smile, short a few teeth. Vlad had neither heard nor noticed in any way his approach, and he was startled to say the least. Kneeling down, he bowed low. You and your classmates are doing respectfully well in their duties and demonstrating fine qualities. But in Vlad's mind alone, the abbot said, I trained your father, and I know all of your extraordinary talents. Yes, revered master, Vlad replied with barely hidden astonishment. I cannot read minds as you do, but I have learned to hear your thoughts, using an extension of my chi in a similar way. I urge you to use your time wisely. Learn to succeed in the absence of your special skills, because there may come a time when they are not available to you. Here you can do so in safety. Learn to strive and prevail, as your schoolmates must, with an unfaltering will and a questioning mind. I will, Vlad promised. Revered master. You may continue in your duties, Cadet Vlad, but in his mind, he said, There are many wonders that survive within these walls alone. 4 years is not enough to learn them all, but acquire all that you can, for the Queen can take everything material away from us, but the combined knowledge of our own experiences is ours to keep. Listen to me well, Vlad. Your father has left certain objects here for you and those that you trust. Look for them in secret in the lower halls, where all things forgotten are stored. You alone will know them when you see them. Thank you, revered master, Vlad replied, bowing still lower as the abbot left. Rising up, his mind filled with unanswered questions, he finished his sweeping. Besides his father and grandfather, he had never met another living being who could hear his thoughts, although he knew many tales of the sentient mind-men and their minion slave masters. Moving on to the kitchen, he cleaned the floor there quickly and helped his comrades with the dishes. Well, Vlad announced, we survived our first week. Barely, Derek grumbled, and first formation is at 4 o'clock in the morning. Master Tiger again tomorrow, Renvawan affirmed anxiously. You are a great runner, Derek praised. You are built just like Vlad, not me. I prefer lifting weights. All that you need is a few good nights of sleep, and then Vlad will be chasing you instead. I'm okay at it, I guess. Just don't give up, Vlad instructed. My father said that the secret to graduation is only that and nothing more. Nobody wants a quitter next to him on the battlefield. Never give up. Not ever. Renvawan was listening, really hearing them for perhaps the first time, and Vlad's words were sinking in, even though part of him still resented it. He was a perfectly formed elf, with charcoal skin, red eyes, and silver hair. The pride of his father, his face was soft, oval, and youthful in appearance, with round, innocent-looking eyes and a gentle soul. All his qualities were both blessings and potential weaknesses that domineering spirits were prone to use to their advantage. They all walked back to the barracks together. The courtyard was empty save for a lone raven, strutting and pecking about for any scraps of food that might blow his way. The sky was cloudy and darkening. The smell of ozone and approaching rain lingered in the wind. The thought of more rain chilled Vlad to his very soul. He knew what his family had endured, and he could only pray that their ordeal was over. Looks like rain, Derek noted, and soon after, the first drops began to fall. Jogging to the barracks and out of the drizzle, they made their way to their bunks. A lone voice rose above the sounds of snoring and rustling blankets. How did the dishwashing go, Renvawan? Anselm taunted haughtily, and soon after his comment, many of the cadets laughed at his remark. There's no way that kid is going to make it to graduation, teased another. Don't listen to them, Vlad said. They don't know what they're talking about. Oh yeah, Anselm ridiculed. Good luck with him in your company. Leave him alone, Dole Admiral said forcefully, a very muscular and powerful-looking student. We're all trying to sleep. Oh, Anselm replied. I was only playing around with him. No hard feelings, right, Renvawan? Yeah, sure, Renvawan muttered. But it was clear that he was full of hard feelings, and Anselm knew it. Staring angrily at the ceiling with his hands clasped behind his head and his feet crossed over the end of the bed, he struggled to hide his feelings. Derek, lying closest to him, could see his anger, but he knew that sometimes silence was the best medicine, and so he kept silent. In the end, exhaustion claimed them all, and the barracks echoed with the sounds of their breathing, at least until Master Tiger woke them all again before dawn. And the next chapter is entitled The Midsummer's Festival. Conning, Aklon ordered. Steady, full and by. Full and by, echoed J.W. Sailing before the wind, their ships leaped ahead before its invisible power. Carry on, Acklon said. Let's see if we can stay ahead of the weather. The conditions were perfect for their attack. The gathering storm behind them made the moonless night an almost impenetrable darkness that concealed their fleet and made the lights of Eitzel's celebration seem like a beacon before them. The gathering wind was potent, but easily within the limits of his ship's capabilities. Carry on, mates, JW commanded. Crack on everything that she's got. Throughout the ship, sailors worked the rigging until they had filled every bit of sail. JW, Acklon ordered. Signal the fleet. Battle stations. Full attack. He relayed the order, and the signal officer delivered the message flawlessly by lamplight. Battle stations and full attack. The breeze was constant now, landward and about 5 knots. Orders rang out throughout the fleet, 15 ships in all, including 8 dragon ships and 7 armed merchantmen. All told, Acklon commanded over 5,000 sailors, including 2,000 Marines. His fleet used no slaves, and every sailor among his ranks was a volunteer. It made them unique, effective, and cohesive. The fleet ran with only 4 small lights on each ship, 1 light to port and starboard, and 2 on the aft hull in order to prevent collisions. It was the least possible amount of light, invisible from shore, and merely enough to allow the humans among them to navigate. Acklon stood on the aft deck beside JW, Lord Guy, and Red at the helm. Acklon's face was kind, yet firm, hardened by countless years of sailing and war. His eyes were blue, but gray in the eerie ocean's darkness, and his hair glimmered silver like moonlight on the waves. His uniform was immaculate, save for the collecting ocean spray, with a red jacket and black trousers. A silver head wrap with the Admiral's insignia controlled his hair, in the form of a gold-plated dragon rearing up with both wings stretched back and up, as if in preparation for flight. His boots and belt were of black polished leather and adorned with silver clasps. He wore only 1 sword, a fine rapier, sheathed in a gold inlaid scabbard. Keep her steady, Squirrel, he told Red, so nicknamed because of his amazing ability to climb among the ship's rigging. Red was a human from the Andrian Isles, and as pilots went, he could somehow read the sea with a supernatural eye. They had planned the mission carefully, a well-synchronized attack designed to destroy Eitzel's fleet and secure the harbor as a staging point for invasion. Still, the moonless night was not pitch black, as a starry sky still prevailed over the land and unto the edge of the storm front behind them. It was a difficult and dangerous duty, almost certainly a trap, and the seas off Fermanor's east coast were notoriously treacherous, filled with hidden shoals, jagged reefs, and derelicts intentionally sunk in order to tear open the hulls of unwary foreign vessels. These facts, combined with the overwhelming size of Eitzel's navy, implied strongly that an attack by the 11th Fleet could not succeed. Acklon had calculated things differently. Let's hope that your nautical maps run true, Admiral, Lord Guy said. We procured them at great expense, but they are now more than a year old, and new hazards could exist. The soundings are well organized, JW added, and all of the old obstacles are well marked. This high tide should help us to avoid any new threats. Daiwi climbed the stairs leading up to the poop deck, which framed the powerful wheel that controlled the helm mechanisms. Somewhat younger than the Admiral, his appearance was eerily similar. Wearing an identical red jacket reserved solely for Dragonian captains, Daiwi and the Admiral appeared the same when viewed from long distances. Daiwi moved about Terribilis as if he was the Admiral himself, and he had carefully concealed several of his own personal weapons throughout the ship in the event that he needed them. Signal all dark, Acklon commanded. Running lights only. Execute, anvil, and hammer. All dark, J.W. echoed. Anvil and hammer. There would be no more signals from then until the engagement began, except in the event of the direst emergency. The majority of the fleet was comprised of Doc Elfar Marines, and their night vision was so extraordinary that they required no light at all to maneuver or to work by. Those humans on board were skillful enough that their knowledge of their ships and their instincts was sufficient to get them to the objective with the little starlight that remained. Surprise is our greatest ally now, Lord Guy, Aklon stated as he scanned the ocean's surface before them. Let us hope that Eitzel's fleet is lightly manned and lying peacefully at anchor. There, Admiral, J.W. proclaimed. The lighthouse at Widow's Peak Garrison on the south cliff. Can you not see it? Aye, J.W., Aklon replied. Our course is true. The harbor seems quiet, while the city is brightly lighted for the festival, just as we expected. None knew of the attack save for the Queen and the War Council, Lord Guy affirmed. We received our orders at sea, so no one here should know that we are coming. Of course, Aklon agreed, which makes this almost certainly a trap. Of course, Lord Guy replied as he steadied himself against the gunwale. It's an odd feeling, Admiral, bound by honor to carry out our mission, despite what we know and feel to be true. How many soldiers have died before us for the same reasons, Aklon mused. What of the knight commanded to scale a well-defended castle, or the cavalryman ordered to charge forward into a hedge of spears? Nothing is certain. Let us hold to the belief that we are on a real mission for our Queen, who still guides us truly. I'm prepared for anything, Admiral, J.W. declared. The wind is picking up. We may be pushing our ships too hard. Aye, we're on the ragged edge of speed and power, Aklon replied, but we must arrive as if we have appeared by magic. Get me a sounding, J.W. Soundings, boatswain, J.W. ordered. On the quarter hour, but double quiet. Aye, sir, he reported. 20 fathoms, sir. The cliffs flanking Eitzel's harbor now loomed before them, ominous, dark walls of rock and sandy slopes. They reflected the passing gleam and the slow circuit of the lighthouse flame. The battlements atop them appeared to hold the expected number of watchmen and oil lamps. The castles were impressive, with several great square towers connected by well-buttressed walls and flanking barbicans. Similar fortifications loomed on both hilltops, over 100 feet above the sea. The sheer cliffs made a frontal assault impossible, and boulders and treacherous shoals littered the shore at the waterline. The harbor's mouth was nearly a half of a mile wide, but the navigable channel was less than half of that width, with treacherous shallows visible only at low tide. Several small fishing boats were moored here and there, just outside of the main channel. Aklon peered out over the starboard beam first, and then the port beam, before checking on the starboard and port quarters. Captain Norris is well away with his group, Aklon observed. They are already lowering longboats in the water to assault the South Cliffs batteries. And the footnote is the line, speed and power is an honorific salute to my friends of Delta Company 269 Armor, my last duty station at Fort Benning. Their motto is speed and power. They're a great tank unit. And fathom is a nautical measure of 6 feet, or to measure the depth of, or to understand, of course. Okay. Captain Wayne has landed his Marines on the North Beach. Their ships will hold their positions offshore for their extraction. So far, Lord Guy assented, everything is just as we've planned. Aklon studied the flow of battle intensely. Their artillery will crush us if our Marines do not engage both fortifications. Stealth is our only chance of success. The festival should have left the forts undermanned. Let us hope that we catch them napping. Our captains have done this before, Lord Guy said, and they know the challenges. If the sea was calmer, I would use my vision pool to examine the objective, but I'll never be able to concentrate long enough on this brutal sea. Our plan is sound, Aklon replied. This is the best group of fighters that I've ever led. They'll get the job done. Timing was everything now, because if they passed between the cliffs too soon, then the Marines might not have sufficient time to get inside and do their work, and if they waited too long, then they would become vulnerable to counterattack. Keeping track of his battle line, he believed that the landing parties needed a little more time. The harbor seems quiet, J.W. observed. Reef sails, Aklon commanded. Slow our speed by 1/3. Reef sails, J.W. ordered. Slow by 1/3. The Marines need more time, Aklon explained, but too much could cost them. Reaching out with his mind, Aklon found each of his commanders in turn and communicated his thoughts to them before returning his attention to the front. The fleet slowed down to match his pace. Captain Norris and Douglas had landed on the south beach, and Captain Wayne and Cagney on the north. Ready yourself, J.W. It's about to get ugly. And reef in nautical terms means to shorten sail. Okay, so we'll leave off there, and we'll take up when we return. The next episode, entitled South Beach, we'll find out how Captain Norris and Cagney fare on the beaches. It's going to get ugly. Thank you, and have a great night.